All right, folks. Wednesday evening. Let's try to get some painting doing. And last time we were really close to having the. Well, we don't need that right there. We're really close to having this entire area on the wet palette really had nowhere to work on. So let's go to put a new sheet down here. And we got this really, really wet. You can see as you press down on it, the moisture comes up off of it. So that's how I like to run it anyways. And let's just get one of these papers, put it over on one edge and just sit it down. Some people freak out about this thing rolling, but all you got to do is just come over here and just say, no, you need to lay down, just wet the edge. Just run your finger along the edge and you're good to go. And it'll stay down. It'll stay down. And then we'll get one of these little hotel key cards. We use this stuff for extra, all kinds of stuff. Extra styrene. Set that there. All right. And let's get the usual suspects on here. Well, first of all, we need to get the fan going a little bit higher than that. Having it on 2 isn't going to cut it. Put some black here over on this side. Some white over here beside it. Well, we could have put a video up yesterday. Well, it was actually up today, but it was filmed yesterday. Got the Pope got into battle. Check that out if you haven't already. See how he did. See if he's living the right kind of life. You never know. Okay, and we're going to do flesh. We've got 5 of these guys done. Last time we worked on the Amorites, we got these 5 guys complete. So this is one pose of the fast blade. We're going to work on a different pose of the fast blade. Knock out their flesh. Plan on doing that. And I talked about running out of paint recently, that I was kind of low on some paint. And got all this stuff in the wrong place. Might as well put it away while I'm talking about it. And the colors that I used for the basing on this desert, a couple of the colors I'm really low on. One of them was the English uniform. So I figured I could go to Hobby Lobby, which is the only hobby type store that we have here in town. And they do carry Vallejo, but they don't have that. They do not have that color. So I ended up mail ordering it from a place called Burbank House of Hobbies. They actually sell off of eBay. And I guess they have a Facebook presence. Enter hello for 10% off your first order. Well, I already have a first order. Anyhow, I had, they were less than $3 a bottle. And I picked up the color that I needed, which was English uniform, and green ochre, which I'm really low on. And this one, I've had this color for a long time, the beige brown. The beige brown I have is extremely watery. No, that's flat earth. And I made it a point that I was going to throw mine away once I got it. That's flat brown. Probably should have picked that up too. I went through my colors here and wanted to see what other colors I needed that I could order with them, just to kind of make the shipping less painful. It wasn't too bad, but I'll come across beige brown at some point. But anyways, I rebought that. I meant to leave it out here. So we've got, these are the 2 of the colors for the desert basic that I was getting really low on. And the other one is the dark sand, which I have plenty of that one. Okay, so enough chitter chatter on that. Let's put this stuff away. English uniform, green ochre. So yeah, I got pretty good results. The funny thing is California is all the way on the other side of the world from us. But generally, the shipping from California is not bad, because if you like order it from the morning, they haven't even opened up yet. So there's a chance that they'll get it out the same day. So that always helps. I'm going to hold on to this. Burbank House of Hobbies. Yeah, if you look up the Yeho paints, they come up on there. All right. So what are we doing for this color? Well, we involve using the old red leather and some sunny skin tone as well. Let's get these two colors on here. We can put them away. All right, now let's get some fine detail brush, or should be able to do at least the base color of the skin tone. And let's get these guys out too. Had this stuff everywhere when I was painting my church. I should show you guys that, because I ended up actually finishing it after hours. It's turned out so well, Mitch decided for me to just keep it. So this was a $1 item on at the dollar store at Dollar Tree, and I suspect it's about 15 or so years old. But this ended up getting repainted well. It's still a natural light. I don't know what it is about the lighting here. It doesn't come out well with the camera. It's great for me painting, but the pictures looks very washed out. But this turned out really well. It's already been used in battle. So check out the Holy Smokes video that we filmed yesterday. Anyhow, so this turned out all right. Not bad for craft paint and so forth. So. All right, so we've got 2 different poses. There's 10 figures left of these fast blades, 5 in each pose. Got these guys with the blade on their side. And we're going to do that last. I did these other guys that also have the sickle swords on them next. All right, let's get all this stuff where it needs to be. We're going to need this one. We're going to need this one. We're probably going to need this one. So let's leave those 3 brushes out. It's all the maintenance you don't see other people do. They're like prepared. I just bring you guys along with me. Let's just clean this old thinner in there. It's contaminated by a lot of black drippings in there. I was doing using it in ways I don't normally use with my black to darken the windows on that church. All right, let's put this here under the water, because we don't need the whole thing sticking out. Just something we can wipe our brushes on. That still has life in it, yeah. All right, where is the thinner? Tried to get on here as soon as I could, but I had to take care of some other stuff today. So we didn't get on until a little later. That's all right. Still got me for about an hour or so. We'll see how far we can go. If we get all the skin tone painted on these 5 guys, I'm happy. But, you know, we've got... See, what day is it today? Wednesday? I got Thursday, Friday, this weekend, the next week, and the following weekend, and then the next week, and the show is upon us. So, The show's upon us, and the show's not upon us. We won't be going to the show, but we're going to run all the games here in town. So I still need to get these guys done. So still running all the events. It's just going to be local. We're not going to be traveling to the venue. So still need to get these guys done. The problem is if I don't get them done, I'm really not going to be motivated to do them when I get done playing this army. So I'm playing it in an event that is called Bronze Age Beatdown. And it's every army from 1200 AD, 1200 BC or earlier than 1200 BC. There we go. I think we got that right. Drink. Still haven't woken up yet. Try to have some coffee to wake my ass up. Just gonna paint this guy completely in this color. So unfortunately, I won't be doing any filming from the event. I think it's going to be a little too chaotic, but want to get these guys done so that after the event, start working on something different. Well, a different army. It'll still be a DBA something or another. I had a lot of people on Labor Day that were watching the painting of the building. Maybe that's kind of interesting to you guys. More people than I would have expected, so at some point we'll probably do another building. Maybe I just caught everybody at the right time. They're working on their own hobbies. I get it. We're just going to go ahead and paint this guy. All of the fleshy bits here. We got this guy covered. I should just paint all the rest of the figure, but let's at least get this ground color of this figure done. Then we can worry about the other ones. Okay. Iced coffee, it makes things happen. Of course, it melted, so no ice there. Actually, I gotta go do something. I forgot to take my meds. Be right back. Nothing major, I just forgot yesterday. told me I need to put an alarm on my phone. Luckily, it's nothing that's mind altering, nor is it something that is life changing. It's just my skin medicine. So I don't want to be so itchy, so I need to remember to take this. If it was something like headache medicine, yeah, you wouldn't forget that. You have a freaking blaring headache, but isn't that big of a deal. But I did remember, of course, yesterday. You're supposed to take it every 12 hours, so we'll see. See if I can remember tomorrow morning. Whew! Yeah, that's not boding well. All right, we need to wake the hell up here. Get worked up about something. Nah, that's no good. Yeah, I don't care for this stage of it because I'm just kind of blandly just painting everything one color. Once you start adding like the muscle definition and stuff on here, it's more interesting. Get a little bit more exciting when you're able to personalize this. So there you are, late start. No, I started as early as I could, 8:15. Yeah, it's better than not painting at all. I don't have a whole lot of time to get these guys done. I only have, what is it, today, tomorrow, the weekend, the next week, the following weekend, and the next week. And then they got to be done by then. They got to be done by the show, even though there's no show, our own events. So. Our show that's here. I honestly don't think there's going to be that many change in people. We'll gain a few more people by it being here, but we'll lose a few by not being down there. But it is what it is. I cogitated for a long time about making a decision, and I didn't want to do what I had to do. I was kind of in a losing situation no matter what I did. Each scenario had bad options. So it's 1:33 a.m. in the UK right now. Andrew Reese, you guys, what do you guys call that in the UK? Is it reconnaissance? You call it Reese? Because that'd be pretty cool if you could, or recce. I don't know. I think it's something different in the UK lingo. I use reconnaissance a lot. As a matter of fact, that's a word I use, and I don't mean wargaming. Like, I'm going to go do a recon. I'm going to go do reconnaissance. Like if I'm looking for something at work and need to go check the yard and see if we have that. Welcome. Don't know if you've been with us before, but thanks for stopping by. Our cousins across the pond. Well, they're not my cousins, but, cousins, so to speak. That's where it started. That's where the wargaming thing started. But I think next year, in the spring, I'm going to do things a little different. Just in case something weird happens like what happened this year. We're not caught with our pants down completely. But we'll see. All right, this guy's done. I guess I could probably just say, I could have just painted him probably this German camouflage. But, the reality is when I'm doing this mix, I am painting them and it's a lot thinner. I'm not putting the paint on very thick. So, even though I have multiple levels of the paint that's on here, it's not really covering up on any of the detail. 1:33 a.m. I stayed up late last night, but it wasn't 1:33. I think I made it to about midnight. I got home probably from the game that we filmed about 11, and then I tried to do some editing. I'll tell you what, the editing wasn't difficult. What was difficult is finding the correct music, and I don't know that I even found the correct music, but I can't spend 3 hours looking for free music. Because the problem is my editor has selections that are already free. You don't want to put something out there that ends up being taken down or silenced because you use somebody's music that that you don't have rights to put on your YouTube channel. So you got to be a little bit careful. I mean, it may not happen to you. I just don't want to take any shortcuts. So the next thing you know, I've got a video that I can no longer post on there after I went through all the trouble of making it. But I spent probably about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours trying to find some appropriate type of song, but I've spent a long time sometimes looking for the right song. I don't spend that much time on it anymore, but just for the intro. It's not like I have music playing the whole time. That's other people do videos like that, and that's annoying to have constant drone of a background noise that people are trying to talk louder than. But I got to bed about midnight last night, and back up at 5. Actually, I went to bed at midnight. I probably didn't fall asleep for another half hour. But anyways, that's up there. Yesterday's video. Holy smokes. Yep, that's what it's called. The Pope went to battle. You have to check out, see how he did. If that interests you. All right, 3 done. You ever get to the point where you feel like you're immune to coffee? You drink coffee and when you feel it? Developed a callus for coffee. I don't really drink it for flavor. I drink it for octane. Stuff keeps drying on me. Is this Jack partially up? Oh, I thought so. Felt like I was hunching a little bit. When I bought this painting table, I got one as tall as I could get, and I got a chair that was as short as it could go. Because that forces me to be as erect as possible and not hunch over very much. Because I'm a slow painter, so I'm going to be here a while. Uh-oh, we got a dissertation. Good! Watched the Enemies of Ur video just the other day. I really enjoyed it. First game went about an hour long because you couldn't kill a unit. Yeah, well, that's different. Sometimes that happens. It actually doesn't happen that often, but as long as people aren't avoiding combat, it's all right. Sometimes you'll have a game that runs long, and then you have a game that just falls apart. Yeah, I'm actually surprised how many people were actually interested in Bronze Age stuff. I would have never thought that was the case. But hey, that's cool. Uh-oh. Need me?
Are we reconvening or no?
I didn't think so.
Okay.
Okay? All right. Yeah, I'm actually surprised how many people were interested in Bronze Age stuff. I'm not particularly interested in them because a lot of the armies, like these guys, could look like many of them in different armies. So there's no big incentive for me to like do other armies if they're all going to be like bareheaded and be barefoot, and there's just a whole lot of that whole thing going on, and there's just such little information known about it. Maybe that's what people like. I like a period where there's more things that are grounded, and then you can kind of put your own spin on it a little bit instead of just trying to come up everything from scratch. But I will do another Book 1 army, another early army. Probably my Assyrians. I already have the armies. They already have the figures. Don't need to go out and spend money on them, and potentially not do anything with them. Just have them sit there. Yeah, that first battle with that was the one I think that we was charging across that field, right? There was like a field in the middle of the play, and that kind of dictated a whole lot on the battlefield. That's one of those things that if it hadn't been there, if that field wouldn't have been there in the middle of the play, they were trying to push those pikemen across, the game would have played significantly different. So just a subtle little thing like that can make a totally different game. Do you start new armies based on the history or more how the army looks? Wow, it's just a combination of factors. It really is. Of all the armies I've done, hold on, I got to get this thing before this hits the ground and we have something that gets unplugged. Got all kinds of wires and stuff here. Of all the armies I've painted, though this one that I'm painting now, the Amorites, are probably the one that I started on them the least because of their history. I didn't know jack shit about these guys. The reason I actually started them was Joe, when he was picking the figures for his army of had some Essex figures of these like spearmen looking guys. I'll show them to you. And I really like the miniature, and I wanted to paint an army with them. This guy, which I haven't painted them yet. I'm going to be using these guys as solid auxilia, and they're kind of a basic looking figure, but they have like a reed type helmet. They're a nice pose. They got good facial features. Separate shield. Really like this figure. And I'm like, well, it's like I looked up what figure it was, and it's called Amorite Spearmen. So I'm like, okay, well, what armies can have Amorite Spearmen? Well, I'll be damned if the Amorites can't. And I looked at the army list, and it looked really interesting in that it had a lot of fast blade. It just looked different than any of the other armies that we'd have of the period. So I decided to get them. And I don't know anybody who had this army. That's a big appeal for me. I don't want to build an army that somebody that I know in my inner circle already has. Especially if they have it and they really like them. Like, for instance, Teutonic Knights, I'll probably never have Teutonic Knights. Because Luke and Mitch both like that army a lot, and I think they each have one. So I don't have anything against them. They're cool. Lots of people like them, but we already have an army or two of them in our inner circle, so there's not a big incentive. So I'm looking for more of the weird kind of stuff, armies, but that's why I got these guys. But how they look is a big part. The history is kind of a big part as well. Like I said, this is probably the only army that I don't know anything about these guys. I know so little about these guys that I started doing a search for what I was going to do for a camp. And I came across this article, or several series of articles, that said that they were human, they would sacrifice children, kind of like the Carthaginians would. And I'm like, well, I could make a really interesting fire pit type of camp for this army. It'd be morbid, but and then somebody corrected me and said that where did I find that these guys were child sacrificers? And sure enough, I'd gotten mixed up because it's the Ammonites that are the child sacrificer, not the Amorites. So luckily, I realized that before I decided to build the camp. And, but that tells you how little I knew about the history of these guys. I didn't know jack about them. So, but they're actually the pre-Babylonian Babylonians. As a matter of fact, Hammurabi, which everybody's heard of, hopefully, is an Amorite king. They ended up, the Amorite city of Babylon. They eventually ended up turning into the Babylonian Empire kind of thing. But, yeah. But history is a big part of it. Just not a big part of this army. It's kind of unusual in that respect. Okay. That's all done, so let's just go back to the beginning and let's start painting some fleshy bits. Let's add some more of this red leather. Now, see, these guys don't really appeal to me because they're just kind of, and there's nothing wrong with the figure, but they don't have headgear. They don't have shields with any kind of heraldry or whatever. And they've got no clothes. I mean, they're barefoot. It's not like I'm doing an army that you could do different units and paint the heraldry and stuff like that. Although a lot of people shy away from that. I want to do the complicated stuff. That's my natural inclination, is to do Book 4 especially. Late medieval, or, even some of the Dark Age stuff is pretty colorful as well. All right, let's add more red to this. Red leather, to be precise. It's kind of nice painting some other skin tones other than just a generic Caucasian looking one. And then there's some armies that I'm not interested in doing them at all because I'm not interested in their army composition nor how they're painted. Unfortunately, one of those areas is the New World. I'm not particularly interested in the South American armies. Well, the Aztecs would be interesting, but I know two people that already have them. So, like the Incas, I think somebody asked me recently if I had plans on doing like a battle with the Incas. It just doesn't interest me. It just doesn't interest me. They would do terrible against the Aztecs, I think, but they'd be okay against some of the other armies. It's just a period that just doesn't really appeal to me. When I've got a lot of other things that I'm more interested in, it's not like I'm totally opposed to doing them. Actually, there's quite a few people that make Inca figures, for instance. But that army changed quite a bit for 3.0. I believe it's a lot better. They got some. I think they can have some fast blade, but I do have the conquistadors on my to-do list. I actually have all the Spanish troops from other projects. I could make them. Just a matter of getting the Tlaxcalans in the army. They consist of eight of the 12 stands or allies, which honestly, proportion-wise, should be even a bigger amount. It would be like, maybe even more than 10 to 1. It's definitely more than 10 to 1 in a real army. So they couldn't have done all that without the allies. They couldn't have conquered the Aztecs without the allies. They couldn't have conquered all the Aztecs if the Aztecs weren't so mean to their neighbors. It's like, we got to put an end to these guys. I agree. They keep taking our people to sacrifice them. Want to join up? Well, there's a lot of folks that are, for instance, not very interested in Asian armies. By Asian, I mean, the Far East. And I like them. I like them. So, depends what you're interested in. They did a poll recently on what some of people's most common armies that they had. And in book 3, the Dark Age Britain armies were really, really popular. And, they don't interest me at all. But, wargaming is mostly from the UK. And I get that. It makes sense that would be, a popular area. I just find the army list pretty bland. Like, you take the Vikings are basically all blade. And you take the Anglo-Saxons, they're almost all, well, depending on what period you're doing, they're also kind of not a lot of variety also. So, and that's not my heritage. I mean, if it was, I'd be more inclined to do that kind of thing, I always recommend people, your first army, if you don't know what to do who your people are. I mean, that's what I did, and I built the feudal Spanish was my first army. So, you don't have to do that, but, it's a way to do it. Is this the first one to do with... No. Is it? All right, we're going to do this one all the way up. I'm afraid I'm going to need to get more coffee, man. I'm not with it. I'm not with it today. I'll be right back. I need to wake the hell up. Somebody's having a good time. So is the rest of the world still on lockdown? I really don't pay attention to the news, to be honest with you. I think Australia was going to be locked down for a week, and now it's turned into 3, and I'll tell you what, I gamed last night. I hadn't gamed in 4 or 5 weeks. I want to say 4 weeks. I specifically skipped it because I wanted to get, well, first the Papal Army done, and then I got to get these guys off the ground, you know, because when I come back from the end of September at our event where I'm playing these guys, hopefully, I'm going to want to do something different. I'm going to want to roll into my Dracula army or something. Dracula, Byzantines, something. And, you know, I don't want to be like, well, I still have to, I just fudged a couple stands, which I could do that, and then still have to roll around. Because to be honest with you, I could just take my Chariot guys. I know they're not appropriate, but they are fast. They're a fast warband. I could just use them as fast blade, you know, and just play them in the event. See, guys that look like this. And yeah, they wouldn't be appropriate, but they're from the same part of the world-ish. The basing's the same. Here's my Amorites. Here's some more Amorites that I've finished. The basing is similar. I could use them, but I don't want to. I've done that before. I did that with my Russians a long time ago. I played my Russians. I had to fudge all their knights. They didn't come in. They didn't get done. I didn't get them done in time. I ended up using my Ostrogoths knights for them, which aren't that far off. It could be a lot worse, but I won the tournament with them. So when I came back, I'm like, do I want to roll right into doing 5 stands or whatever it was of knights? I'm like, no. So it took me like another year and a half to get the rest of that army done, the Russians. So I don't want to do that with these guys. So I would like to power through and get them done, because at the end of September, last week of September, I want to be looking at something else to do. Something different. Something different. I talked about in the past doing a colorful army and a bland army, and a colorful army and a bland army. Well, the Papal Army was a colorful army. This is definitely a bland army. So technically the next one should be colorful, if I keep that thing going. Because you don't want to do a bunch of bland armies in a row. I mean, although some people like these half-ass naked armies because they paint quick, but, you know, I don't know if they paint any quicker. You still have to do the muscle definition. The thing is maybe you don't have as many decisions that you have to cogitate about doing about what color to paint them, because it's kind of a little bit more autopilot. Like, you know, most of the figure is going to be bare-chested or, you know, bare-legged. Yeah, we got lots of stuff that we need to do. I don't even have to buy any figures now. It was kind of a bummer that C&B Miniatures out in the Pacific Northwest, the supposed importer of Essex, stopped doing mail order, because it was really convenient to buy, you know, 3 packs or something of something that I wanted to use to supplement figures I already have, just for variety. I don't necessarily want to do that in every army, but, you know, so. You recently wanted to paint big mechs for a game called Gamma Wolves, but painting models at large killed my motivation to paint. I know. Big mechs, Gamma Wolves. I don't know what that is. Is that anything like Battletech? If you're interested in Battletech, and I played it way back in the day, the Battletech game for computers, superb. I just got it in the last couple weeks, and I've played it some. Have I played it some? Yeah, I played it quite a bit. If you played the original board game BattleTech or with miniatures, you know, the one from FASA, that the computer version is, well, it has a lot of the same designers and stuff in it. So it has a lot of the history, you know, the fluff background story. It's really well done. And it's turn-based. It's not one of these real-time strategies where you're running around like a maniac trying to stop your guys from going the wrong way. I highly recommend it. It's the one done by Harebrained Games or something like that. It was just recently on sale on Steam for like $10. Just the core game. It's worth every penny of that. And if you're familiar with if you've played the BattleTech game, board game, any length at all, you'll be extremely familiar with it. You'll know how to build mechs. It's a really cool game. It's a really, really new. And I'm not a science fiction person, but it brought back memories from the early 1990s, late 80s, early 1990s. Yeah, something like that. Had those Ral Partha miniatures and dry brushed them, and yeah, those are actually the first things I sold on eBay. When I went on eBay and I was like, let me get rid of stuff that I haven't used in a long time to, you know, sell them and use that money to buy other stuff that, you know, hopefully I'll use more. In the early 2000s, those were the first things I sold. I should have taken pictures of them. Maybe I do have pictures of them around here somewhere, so I can go like, those aren't really very good. But yeah, that's a cool game. It's a really, really neat game. Never heard of Gamma Wolves though. Maybe it's a competitor or something like that of it. All right, let's bring this up a shade. Adding more of this sunny skin tone. And this is the same method that I would use to paint Caucasian skin, except I add black to this until I get to this color. Then I start adding sunny skin tone to this one. So what I do for a more darker Middle Eastern, you know, leathery look, these guys are basically desert nomads. So they're going to have a tan on them the whole time, regardless of, you know, whether or not they're fair-skinned as Europeans or not, which I don't think they would be, but anyways, I'm making it a little bit darker. So what I do is I'm using the same method, but I don't add this sunny skin tone to this pure color. I end up adding it to a color that's, we'll call it contaminated with some black. So it starts kind of as a darker color when I start adding it, and that one little difference makes them, you know, makes them look differently. So. And that's what works for me. You know, I mix all my colors. I like that. I don't use the 3-color system. Wasn't around when I started kind of painting this layering. I always called it blending. Well, the blending happens here. It doesn't happen on the figure. But the common way to call this is layering. That's what I do. But it's pretty thin layering. It's almost kind of like a heavy watercolor. And then we're going to add a little bit more sunny skin tone to this. Got to be careful. Some of these colors are really powerful with the pigmentation. Then you end up going past the point you might have not wanted to. Let's go back to the back. So if we're talking about goals, I definitely need to get these guys done by the end of the weekend. These 5 figures. So we can focus on the next 5 figures next week. Maybe I'll make it, maybe I won't. It is what it is. We'll give it our best English try. Big mechs. I wonder how big that is. Gamma Wolves. What's Gamma Wolves game? Let's see. Let's see what we're dealing with here. The thing about science fiction I don't care for is sometimes the fluff backstory I don't care for. Like, I'm a big fan of the Gaslands game. I think their backstory lore is just dumb. But I mean, ultimately, you can make the game about whatever you want. Gamma Wolves. Oh, it's by Osprey Publishing. Oh, it's brand new. Okay, what do we got here? Let's look at some images. See if you can use anything. Okay, it looks like it's kind of like BattleTech, but with... but the people are bigger, like a 28 millimeter BattleTech. Okay. Yeah, that's cool. The problem with some of those rule sets, I'll be honest with you, I am big on books. I am really careful with my books. Maybe I'm too careful with my books. I hate seeing a nice rule set like the Osprey books. What was that one that just came out? The modern, well, it didn't just come out. It came out like 10 years ago. That was called For Modern Warfare. I can never remember what the Force on Force. It's too nice a book to play. The rule book is absolutely gorgeous, and I would hate to use that in play. And, oh, thank you for that. Thank you, Andrew. Much appreciated. Excellent. Half the dash. Keep up the good work. We will definitely have more. We will definitely have more. But some rule books are just too beautiful. I have, when I first got my DBA book, my 3.0 book, I went and made a photocopy of it. For my own use, I don't really use it anymore because I'm going to be teaching a lot of people. I didn't want my $40 book to get messed up. The irony about it is when I was photocopying it, I ended up ripping one of the little pages. So I've got this book that has a rip in, and I just need to just deal with it. But I've always been someone who's been extremely... you don't want to rebuy books. They're too expensive. When I was doing naval warfare, I've got all the Conway's books, which I think they were like over $100 a piece. Man, you got to treat those like they're, like they can't be found again. Now they're out of print. But I'm really, really careful with my books. And having a nice rule set like that is almost like disturbing for me. So I would probably be one that I would buy the rule book and then also get it in PDF. So I think you get all the Osprey stuff in PDF, right? And then you can have both. I prefer to read the actual book. It's just, I'm old school when it comes to that. But if I want to constantly refer to it, I'm definitely going to want to do the PDF. Actually, probably the right thing would be to do is you buy 2 books, you sit on one, you cut the other one up out of the binding and you put it in like a plastic sheeting. And then you got the best of both worlds, So that would be cool too. So, but yeah. Mecha stuff. I don't mind playing all kinds of things. If you go back and look at one of my game feeds, it may have been a year ago, but Scott decided to bring, one of the players in our group decided to bring or borrow a game based on the movie Aliens. And it was a hoot. And it had miniatures. We didn't paint them or anything. And I'd play it again. I don't know if it's just I've gotten older, or I just don't want. It's not that I don't want to learn how to play new things. I don't want to be the point guy to learn how to play the rules. I don't know if that makes any sense. I don't want to be the guy that's like, okay, guys, I'm going to read the rule book and I'm going to figure out how to play this thing. I don't have it in me anymore. Maybe it's because now if I do that, I'm going to make a video on it and I'm going to get stuff wrong. And it's really frustrating to play things incorrectly. I don't like that because I understand that there's some people out there that specifically want to play things wrong so it's to their advantage. And I'm not one of those people. It's just, I'm human, unfortunately. And I'm going to get things wrong. And it's really frustrating to realize, well, you didn't play the game right. Sometimes it just feels like it's just a never-ending battle to try to get it correct. Some rule sets more than others, but it is definitely a battle sometimes, because I don't want to lead people astray or do things incorrectly, but we just get confused, or we get in a rush, or we have a good time, or it happens. But I'm not opposed to playing other things. But I've also realized, I can't be involved in everything. As much as I'm passionate about World War II, I don't think I can play my World War II stuff anymore. It's just not very time efficient. I need to do this stuff because, this takes forever, but you guys will see them in videos and they can fight each other. And the game's not perfect, but it is a lot of fun. Go watch that video that we filmed last night. It was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. But we do enjoy filming the videos. They're entertaining for other people. They're entertaining for us to go back and look at things, a year from now. And it's a lot of fun to do. It does take a while, though. So I know that video that I was done editing it before I went to work. And then, so before 7, it was done editing. And between uploading it and then between crunching the video so that it could be exported, uploading the video, and then waiting a certain amount of time for YouTube to process it in high definition, it took like 10 hours. 10 hours? Maybe more like 8 hours. It takes a long time. It's kind of like, if when I put this stuff on the bases, it takes me a little while to put it on the bases, but then I got to wait 8 hours for it to dry. There's just no way to speed that part of the process up. So, anyhow, they're fun to do. There will be more. There haven't been any in a month because I've just been busy painting. Every time I'm doing one of those, it sets me back a little bit. I think it was just time for the Pope to see battle. It had been too long. He'd been sitting on the sidelines for too long, and I had this cool thing we needed to work on this stuff right here. You guys didn't see this. I did a painting on Labor Day on how to paint this thing up from a dollar store item. I think it turned out quite a bit better. It does look better in person than it does in your view because your view ends up being very washed out looking. Not that it's super colorful, but it turned out really well. There'll be more of those. So it'll be in other videos. So those are just little add-on things that are nice to have on the battlefield that kind of give you an ambiance of what the terrain that these armies fought over may have potentially looked like, even though it's not necessarily anything that's Italian or anything like that. It's just some kind of make-believe church influenced by maybe some real places, but anyhow, those were fun to do. But that still took 4.5 hours, 5 hours to do that. fun. I didn't have any black spray paint. I had to use white. Still worked. Wasn't a big deal. So. Might be basing some of my buildings on white, on the white spray paint instead. All right, well, we're going to lighten this up one little bit, I think. Let's compare to some of these other skins here. Here we have, oh, he's a lot brighter. All right, let's bring this up, as I like to say. Let's bring it up. I don't want them all necessarily the same hue, shade, skin tone. So when I'm painting all these guys, I'm actually painting all exactly the same pose at one time. Well, there's 5 figures that are in the same pose. All 5 of these guys are exactly the same. And I'm doing that so that when I'm painting, say, choosing, say, the color of his sarong and so forth, I'm making a conscious effort to not paint all of these guys the same. Because normally you would think, okay, why don't you just figure out who's going to be on what stand and paint those figures as you go. And the problem with that is you may pick, this guy's on multiple stands and you're painting them at different times and you may end up accidentally painting them very similar to each other. And I don't want to do that. I want them to look distinctively different. Well, as distinctively different as they can, considering it's still the same figure in the same pose. So. But we may end up doing the videos of our games in the show, depending on how many people we have. If we don't have a whole lot of people, we may just film the whole thing live. I know some of you guys are entertained by, maybe you're in some environment that you guys don't get to see any gaming, or maybe it's just something fun to listen to in the background while you're working on your own hobby. But we do enjoy filming things because a lot of really interesting things happen that people wouldn't believe if you didn't see it. It's worth it, It's really worth it. So, I'm just glad you guys are I'm glad somebody's interested in it. That's kind of cool. I do watch other people's streams, and not as much as I used to. I'm busy doing my own, but I used to listen to talk radio, but talk radio is all too political, and I'm not interested in any of that stuff, regardless of what it is that it's telling me. I don't want to listen to none of that. I'm good in everything's good in this fantasy little world. This guy's a different shade. We're going to leave him out as it is, though. It's good to have a variety of skin tones. Again, you're probably not going to get exactly the right look on them. Okay? We want a variety of... They're not all the same. They aren't all related. Just because they're all from the desert. That's my fluff story. Just because you're all from the desert. Alright, let's start from scratch with another one. What am I doing here? I'm not paying attention is what I'm not doing. Let's grab some black. Let's grab some of this. The red leather. Alright, let's start there. Yeah, it would be nice to have an enemy for It would be nice to have an enemy for my Papal Italian at some point. I got a couple of guys that I have in mind, so. Yeah. All right. Yeah, we should have a painting weekend. I'm going to be here all weekend, folks. Obviously, we got some other things to do, but you know, the mornings work well for me. I think it works well for people in the UK. You know, 5 hour. I think we're at a 5 hour time difference, something like that. UK, the land of toys, as I like to call it. That's where all the miniatures come from. I wonder if that's going to be the new normal, that increased shipping price. No, we'll just have to be a little bit more cautious when we order things. We'll have to order things when we absolutely have to have them. Not just like, hey, it'd be cool to check out what these figures look like. You know, actually, I'll be honest with you. As time goes on, I'm a lot less likely to mail order things than I used to be. Because now there's pictures of them online. So now, you know, there's not that fascination with, I wonder if I'll order these figures and I don't know what they look like because there's no pictures of them online. And, you know, sometimes you're disappointed because there's a reason why there's no pictures of them online. They might sell less of them if they saw them. But with that said, I mean, my Papal Army has some not so great figures in it. Like the actual, and they paint up just fine. You know, it's kind of a thrill to paint up figures that nobody gives them a second look. You know, guys that people they've been skipped over their whole life. Like, oh, those figures, there's nothing to talk about with them. Really, they all paint up pretty well. You know, they really do. So. They really do. And I have many of them. That's how I came across them. I've come across them in flea markets. You know, armies, that figures that somebody had been sitting on for 20 years. They don't want to see them anymore, and they damn near give them away. And I don't need them, but if they're damn near giving them away to me, yeah, I'll find a use for them. And sometimes I'll find a home for them. I do not mind old school figures. How long have we been on here? An hour? Now we're 9 minutes. Okay. Right. Nah, we need to go a little bit. We need to be a little bit more red than that. Yeah, there we go. Then maybe we'll add. This buff color to it. The video channel called Kings and Generals. Somebody sent me a link to a really interesting Amorite episode on them. You know, they've got a really nice combination between history and then coupling it with maps. And I'm huge on maps as far as getting you to understand what's going on and where everything is in relation to each other. So, yeah, they got good stuff on that channel. Kings and Generals. They don't need me pushing their site. Those guys have millions of subscribers. I'm a nobody. Not that I'm out to be famous or anything. I'm just saying, you know, I'm kind of doing my little niche thing. They're appealing to lots of different peoples that aren't necessarily even war gamers. They're just history fans. So, but the stuff that they I enjoy because it involves maps. So you're able to see where things are from in relation to each other, especially when you're tackling on some really complicated subject of, say, don't tell me I just got paint on here. I did. Well, it wasn't very much. All right. Damn it, man. Only reason I got a hat on is so my hair is not all crazy. I don't want to put stuff in it and just go to bed. Actually, let me go. It's not very much. Let me go take care of that before it gets out of control. Okay, back again for both of you. This open? Man, is the pressure that tight in this room? You open one door and you close one door and another one opens. I must have skipped that class in science. All right. Here we go. We get to about where we need to be here. It's so thin. It's like, heavy watercolor. I don't know how this started, just doing this. It was back in the 90s. I'm sure I saw something in a magazine. Maybe it was influenced by, I'm sure it was influenced by stuff, but it was, as I like to say, pre-internet. I don't remember if there was an internet, but I certainly didn't have access to it. I didn't have access to an internet until, I think, February 1999. My own computer. Before that, it was, not that common. But that really has accelerated our understanding in the hobby because we can share ideas from each other, with each other. Yeah, so we're gonna make this guy a little bit more red skinned than the other ones, and that's good. I'm gonna mix it up a little bit. All right, we're gonna go here, then we'll start adding that on there. Yeah, this guy's been sunburned a little bit more. All right, now let's take some of this sunny skin tone. Let's be careful. It's very powerful, meaning if you had a little bit too much, it's going to start getting you past the point where I want it to be until I add that layer on there. We're just going to add some on here. Fingers. I like doing fingers. I like doing fingers and foreheads and noses and cheekbones, because that's the kind of stuff that really starts making this figure look like a figure instead of just some two-dimensional statue kind of thing. All right, now we're going to add a little bit more of this. And I'll be honest with you, I don't want to say this the wrong way, but the good thing about this lockdown and all this thing is I don't know, we got this, at least I'm able to talk about the hobby. I mean, I like that, you know, because, like, for instance, the people in my game group, none of them really paint. So, you know, we may have a great time playing games, but I don't get to talk about any painting stuff with them. I did have a nice experience one time a couple years ago when I went to Historicon with another gamer that was also a painter. And we went around and we looked at all the vendors. And that was kind of cool, going about it with someone else who painted, because they were interested in looking at the things that weren't already completely made. You know, like, for instance, I'm never interested in buying anything that's pre-painted already. Like, oh, here's an army. It's already painted by somebody else. Okay, not interested in that. So it's kind of cool going around looking at the vendors with someone who had kind of the same interest that I had. He wasn't interested in anything pre-painted either. You know, looking at brushes or maybe tufts or that kind of stuff. So that was pretty cool. That was a nice experience that we had last time we were at Historicon. All right, let's see how these compare with each other. Yeah, they're different. Now, how do they compare with this guy? Okay. That'll work. That guy's done. You can always come back and tinker with them later. Always come back and tinker with them later. Not go too far. I got two people and they're both asleep. Nah, it's all good. You guys are doing something else. I get it. I've done that before too. As a matter of fact, there's this other guy that I was following who is also a painter. He does live streams all the time. And I had to paint in 1-to-1 scales, I like to call it. I had to paint doors here for the back room. And I'm like, man, I'm not looking forward to this at all. I'm like, how am I going to get through this? So he was doing a live feed, so I signed in and just listened to him paint. And that occasionally took breaks and sent him a couple little texts, you know, about maybe some comment about something they had said. So I get it. It helps you get through, and you know, it's a random discourse. They're not necessarily specific about what they're going to be talking about. Could start sometimes go in different directions, but painting a 1-to-1 scale, yeah, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of 1-to-1 scale painting. We've all done it. We've all done it. It's also really frustrating as somebody who paints something that's really detailed, then I honestly really don't make a mess. When you start painting things in 1-to-1 scale, yeah, you make a mess. There's nothing you could do about it, especially if you're painting like a ceiling or something like that. Little specks of little paint that are everywhere all of a sudden. You didn't even know. With those damn rollers that have a mind of their own. And then you go, well, let me go outside and rinse it. An hour and a half later, 2 hours later, you're still pouring water over it and you're still getting some of the paint out. Sorry, you got a double bacon cheeseburger in one hand and a controller in the other. Holy crap. A controller with a hamburger. Wow. I could do a stick shift in a hamburger, but I don't know about a controller. Is there anything I can play with only one hand? I don't think so. Yeah. Let me think. No, can't do that. I'm not much of a multitasker. PWS, welcome. How are you doing, man? Hopefully you're doing better. Completed second Red Lancers AB minis. Posted Facebook Napoleonic Miniatures Wargaming Group. May post a video, maybe not. So the funny thing about videos are, I'm having a devil of a time taking pictures worth a damn. I think that this lighting is awesome. If you're here, you would agree. When it translates to the camera, something happens. It's the colors are washed out. But if I take pictures of it online, outside, it's okay. You're doing way better. Good. Yeah. Hopefully, and then you don't have to worry about going through that nonsense again, because you'll be like resistant. Hopefully. I don't know what it is. I don't remember in the past taking pictures that have been this much of an issue. I don't know. It just seems like every picture I take is just like out of focus. I don't know. I got to take them outside. Something about being out in the natural light that just gets light from every direction. I think what happens is this light is so powerful that it drowns out, it saturates some parts that are light, and I don't know what it is. It's really frustrating when I take a picture. It's really frustrating when I do something like this. You know? And yeah, it looks great maybe in the picture, but what I'm seeing looks a hell of a lot better than what I'm seeing on that camera. It just does. I'm not sure what it is. Huh, got a little green stuffed cannonball that followed us there. Only thing that was disappointing about this thing is I bought some sheet magnet stuff. Okay, I bought it from Amazon. It came in like 8.5 by 11 sheets, so it's magnetized, so I can. Well, it wasn't for this. It was for my World War II stuff. I got a couple of tanks that I did, and I stuck it to the bottom of them, and so that I can carry them in something and they don't slide all over the place. And it holds them pretty well. It doesn't hold this, so I put this on the bottom. Figured, let me stick this to the refrigerator. Yeah, it didn't work. It didn't go anywhere. Obviously, I didn't let go of it and hit the ground, but so it's not very strong at all. So probably going to peel this off at some later point. It's definitely not the stuff the Litgo uses. Let's put it that way. So, but I did take a picture of this outside and it looks a hell of a lot better. So we may have to do that, but yeah, it's not bad. It looks a lot better than it did. But, you know, again, it took time. I think this took like 5 hours to do, which sounds like a long time, but it's only a figure and a half. You know, and then I'll have to paint it again, so. 15s don't have much surface area for light, always look dark. Even with a light box, it's hard for me to get good pictures and videos. Good, I'm glad I'm not alone. I don't know, sometimes with the video it's okay. It's small scale surface area, Tony. Most watchers understand this, and not on you. 28s look brighter because more surface area. What I don't understand is that, maybe just the human eye is a marvelous thing. I think that we see things with our eye that the camera just can't capture, Yeah. For the longest time, I'd have people that would come to me at shows and go, I don't like, you need to paint your figures lighter. And I'm like, no, you need to have a convention in better lighting conditions. Like, I don't want to paint them. I mean, they look fine under photo. They look fine in natural light. But if you play it, it's something that has crummy light, yeah, they're going to be super dark, But anyhow, not in this stage. Right now, at this stage, these guys look like crap. Not not until they're complete. But I think on video they turn out okay. They look okay on video. It's almost like in photographs. It's what they look bad on. Let's see what these guys look like. Let's look some like Car Age guys. Well, what I'm seeing through this little camera, they look pretty. I mean, they look pretty accurate to what I'm seeing with the naked eye. Let's move them this way. Maybe not. I don't know, hard to see. I love these guys. These guys are a hoot. They don't have a great record, but who cares? There's Amorites here. Let me see the ground color. Now the ground color is brighter on the video than it is in real life. I don't know. Maybe I just need to not worry about it. How about that? Dowels. I don't know if you guys probably already know about this. You know those dowels that they have to put like pieces of wood together, like in a closet? I have them like at Home Depot and stuff like that. They're great for columns. Cut them off at an angle, glue them down there. Don't glue them straight. Glue them like they're, like they've been abused. Like the Vandals came in and, had their way with them. Yeah. Really neat stuff you can just do by something really simple. Anyhow. All right. This is true even looking at combat vehicles at greater distance, no matter the cabo pattern, they look dark. Optics at 2,000 meters. Yeah, honestly, pretty darn good on my screen. Try white paper below figures. Maybe I'll do that. I've seen other people take the white paper, and I always thought it would drown them out and maybe look them darker, but we can try. What's the worst thing that could happen? Doesn't look good. A couple of painters that I really, really like use white underneath it, and I'm like, man, it just doesn't. We'll try that. All right, let's paint this this troublemaker. We'll pick this troublemaker. Now we're going to try to get these guys done by the end of the month, hopefully. I'd hate to have to play this army with replacing figures. Because then what will happen will be just like the Russians. A year and a half will go by, and then I won't want to go back to them. Because as soon as I'm done with these events that these guys are going to play in, I'm going to be ready to hit, old Dracula's army or something a little bit different. It's not like I don't have a ton of armies just waiting to be, come into the limelight. But we need to accomplish things. Let's start something and finish it, not little bits of 50 other things. We'll see. A couple days this week left. We got the weekend to kick some ass on. Got the next weekend to kick some ass on. We'll see what we can do. I really want to do the Chariot next, but I feel like I need to reward myself that, like keep that away from me so I can do that piece. That's the coup de grace there at the end. There's only one Chariot in this army. Yep, we're going to do the rigging and everything. We can do all the rigging and all that stuff. I'll show you how easy it is, hopefully. Oh man, thank you. Thank you. We're going to buy new stuff for this channel. Much appreciated. That's a $30 piece. Is it? You know, the funny thing is I don't sell my stuff. Well, I really don't want to sell my stuff now because we want to have it in videos, right? I can't have it in videos or whatever. But, you know, this, talk about time efficient. This thing, it doesn't turn out worth a damn. But this is a dollar store item, you know, painted by, you know, Chinese slaves. So we repainted it. Mitch had it probably 15, 18 years ago or something like that. And I did part of a video. I don't know if you guys were on there the other night on Labor Day painting this up. You're probably doing something more fun like, you know, having a beer at a cookout. But this was like 5 hours worth of work. And, you know, for $1. Like, that's like really efficient. Or really inefficient, depending on how you want to look at it. But a lot of enjoyment for $1. How about that, you know? But yeah, we'll feature this in other videos as well, because it's another piece that we can use in another video. You know, I'm very reluctant to work on terrain, but when you have it done, it gets to take part in more battles than just an army does. Because the army, it's like, if you're not playing a Middle East army, the Middle East guys are just kind of, you know, they're not there. But, you know, there's other hills and stuff that can use, that kind of stuff. Yeah, I got to take better pictures. It doesn't do it justice here. It's not that it doesn't look bad. It looks more washed out in this photo than it does in this video than it does in real life. I don't know if I can... I don't know. It's between this light that is just so powerful. This is an OT light, by the way, that I use. If you guys don't have one, you should definitely get one. They are awesome. They are... I got them at Michael's. At some point, they had in my... I had an old drafting style... you know, on the big articulated thing that my dad had from like the mid 1960s, and it always stayed with me. I started painting in '85 with it. I ran it until, well, it was already in this house. So we're gonna say 2008. I probably used it every day to play war games with. It was a great light, and then eventually, you know, things wore out. I guaranteed it was made in the United States, but it was one of those things that the ballast in it started going, you know, after a while, and it just didn't work, and just one day it wasn't working anymore. So I'm like, well, I gotta have a light. So we went to Michael's, and they had these OT lights. They're about $100 a piece. This is like a stand on the floor type thing, and they were 50% off. So we ended up getting two of them. One of them sits in the living room. It's the spare, but these things are great to have like in the back of, you know, if you have like a big chair that you like to read in, dude, put that behind your chair. It is perfect light to read. Just superb. And it's perfect light to paint. It obviously doesn't, it is a little probably too bright for, you know, for photos and stuff like that. But anyhow, yeah, it's fun to do. Almost all done. Here's the kicker with craft paint. That's not true. I'm lying to you now. I could have done it with craft paint, but there was some Vallejo for the small parts. But, you know, all this green part's craft paint. So on one hand, craft paint is crappy. On the other hand, I have bought, and you guys have seen them, those little really inexpensive paint palettes that are round. You can get them like at Walmart or someplace like that. They're like $2 a piece or whatever, and they have little divots for the color to go on. You know what I'm talking about. I don't know if I've got one around here somewhere. I did. So I was going to paint something, and I put my craft paint in there to mix it up and everything. Left it for a little while. I never could get it clean. So there was something, either it was probably that little divot thing was so coarse that never could get all the paint out. And you know, I don't like to look at paint when, you know, I don't want to paint this and have other colors on top of it if I don't have to. So I'm like, okay, well, that doesn't really work or anything. So if anything, I try to do like with craft paints, I try using, like, get a roll plate, like a white plate from the from the kitchen. Don't tell anybody. But yeah, that stuff everything comes right off of it. But those little paint palettes you would get at Walmart or something like that, they're not that useful. I've got one that came with this paint palette. Where is it? Here. Okay, this is the little thing that actually attaches. It's magnetic here, and and it holds on to this thing. It's not very useful, but I was using it when I was painting this to mix colors. Because I was using some of the what's that stuff called? Nope, that's not it. I can never remember what it's called. The Glaze Medium. Here it is. Glaze Medium, right? To thin the paint down. And it's stuck to this. And now I tried rinsing it. I may get it off. Well, the problem with painting over this is a thin coat, and you don't want these little flakes of paint to get in with the other paint. But I think I've had this for like 3 years, and it's the first time I've used it. So, got some water mineral stains dripping down to age it. Very subtle at 6 millimeter or 10 millimeter. Oh yeah, I could go batshit crazy, for sure. I just needed at some point to do that. And I've added, so this stuff is really interesting. I've done some like moldy things on it. I've got my Irish handy. My Irish shirts. I know they're at the pub. They drink before they ever get to the pub. Where are me boys? Here they are. I have these things that I like to call dragon eggs. And it's a little JR, I think it's JR miniatures. I love this. I love this army. Again, these are just like peasant type dudes. They just turned out really happy with how they turned out. These two train pieces. I believe they're by JR Miniatures. Hell, I got them probably 20 years ago. Never did anything with them until last year. And I don't know if this comes out with it, but let's see if we can get up in here. And there is some subtle green stuff here. And that's done with the Glaze Medium. So I just did kind of like a wash with it. But these magnets work because these are Litco magnets, not the Ching Chang Chung, whatever those other things are that I bought on the sheet styrene. I probably should just replace it. You just bite the bullet and get some 40 millimeter Litco stuff, and probably 2 of them on here would probably work wonders on there. I think we only have one. Yeah, this is a 40 by 30 magnet on the bottom of this thing, which isn't even close to the size of it. But this is a beast. I put this in a carrying thing and it doesn't go anywhere. But yeah, I believe these are both JR Miniatures I got probably 20 years ago. And well, they don't come on this. They're on a plastic styrene something or another that I scraped up so it would have detail. I did a video with these guys on here. But yeah, I did the little subtle green. You can see a little bit of it there for that little rock mold on there. I was happy with how that turned out. It was my first shot with it. Creeping vines. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's one of the things that I was looking forward to going to the shows, is looking at all those terrain things that I would never mail order, because you got to see what they look like in person, and then you can add a little bit here and a little bit there just to kind of add the feel for it. What do these guys look like on video? Here we go. We need to get to where there's more light. Here we are. This is what I carry all my stuff in. I'll take these to Mitch's house, and then I forget to put them back in my case. So what we got here? We got Nan Chow. We got Nan Chow guys here by Eureka. Those are beautiful figures. And the Irish are over here, including, this is Edward the Bruce. This is Robert's brother. They went in there and tried to become king of Ireland. He got crown, but it didn't really do him any good. He got his ass kicked basically down there. This nightstand I've used one time, I think. In all the battles, I like using the light horse general. No doubt because of Odago, of course, is with him, the Irish wolfhound. That's a big interest in that. I think that when I do my conquistadors, I will put a war dog on there. That's going to be a tight stand because there's going to be 3 guys on horseback plus a mastiff on there. But I think that's what it's going to do. So, where is Stonehenge? You know, believe it or not, I actually have a little Stonehenge. Somebody gave me a little Stonehenge many, many years ago. I've never done anything with it. It's one of those like little gag gifts that you would get like at Books A Million at the, I think it's called a Build Your Own Stonehenge. And I have it here somewhere. Obviously, it's not the scale. It's probably 3mm scale or something like that. But yeah, I'm not sure what it is. But yeah, I'm going to be doing more terrain stuff. It's fun to do. You just sometimes have to be like, I feel like painting, but I don't want to paint the Amorites. That's what happened the other day. Well, I knew I wasn't really motivated to do the Papal Army because I didn't have a camp for them. And then I'm like, you know what? Let me just paint that church. And if I get it done, then I'll go on Monday and do a video of them because we needed to see. They had been done for a couple weeks now, and I hadn't seen any battles, so hadn't seen them in battle. Souvenir shops or gold mines. They are definitely. One of my favorite finds was the camp I used for my Norwegians, which is the stave church. It was a miniature stave church that I got at Epcot in the Norwegian pavilion 10 years ago, maybe longer than 10 years ago. They don't have it anymore. But every time I go to a place like that, I scour to see, okay, what do they have in China for little Great Walls or something like that, and usually come out empty-handed. But sometimes you get lucky and you find something that's really useful that you could repurpose. Because the nice thing about a camp for this game is that it doesn't have to be a certain scale. Like if 3mm will work, or 6mm will work, or some odd scale will work. It's not like it has to be a certain size. It just needs to be kind of a representation for what the feel or what the home base of the army looks like. And if you read the rules literally, it says that it needs to be a mobile camp that can be taken down like tents and stuff. But the reality is who cares? It just needs to be something that looks like just a background piece for the army. Something that helps them tie into who they are or that kind of thing. So I have no problem using something like an inanimate object, like a church or something like that. In this case, is temple, something like that for their camp. Otherwise, you just do some generic tents and ends up being everybody's camp every time. Well, what's the fun in that? What's the fun in that? All right, let's add a little bit of this. How long have I had this fast speed thing? Maybe a month now? I only had a couple days where it's kind of acted up. Knock on wood. And I know the microphone's gotta help. So that's cool. Those things that, like this paint palette. When I got it, I'm like, I had gone to a show. I think I was at the last local show that we had, or maybe it was the next to last local show that we had. And I hadn't bought anything. And it's not like, I got money in my pocket and I'm dying to spend it. It's just, I just kind of on a whim said, you know what? Let me buy that paint palette and see what it is. And I remember it being like $50. And I'm like, oh man, I hope I didn't make a $50 mistake. But after you buy it and you got it, you realize I should have bought this a long time ago. Because if it's something that you're using all the time, whether it's the microphone, whether it's a paint palette, whether it's paints, a light, something like that, the sooner you get it, the more use you're going to get out of it. You know, don't go and buy an Otlight when you're in your 70s. Okay, you could have been using it for 40 years beforehand. So. It's kind of like example I'm going to do is I've got in a week or so I've got to go get my windows tinted on my car, but it's a lease, and I don't want to wait too long to do that. Otherwise, it's not. I don't get as much use out of it because I end up having to return it back in. So you have Castle Neuschwanstein, about 9 inches across. That's big. Well, that's a big one. Neuschwanstein, yeah. 9 inches, that's pretty big. Who makes a little one? The same people who do this in Croatia. I think is it Croatia where they're from? Croatia or Slovenia? I forget which one of the two. They make a Neuschwanstein. And this is as big as this gets, by the way. You can get this in a lot smaller. I don't know what you would do with it being really, really small. Maybe like make a pendant out of it. But this is Castle Bran, which is Dracula's castle. So we'll be painting this up. This thing was fairly expensive. It was like $20 or something like that, and like $18 shipping. But you buy it once, and made by Archiminima.com. They're an Etsy seller, and I think this will paint up really well. We're gonna put this up on like a little rocky outcropping, and maybe put it on a stand that's about this size, something like that. And it's going to be, well, it won't be this tall, but it'll be, maybe that high up off the ground. Put little trees and stuff, maybe a little walkway that comes up to it. And, this will be a camp / fortress that we can use for the Valachians. Yeah, because they're actually not Transylvanians. They're Valachians. Yeah. Maybe that'll be an army that the Turks can actually beat. Oh well. I love how my Turk army. I like how my Turk army plays. I love how they look. They have an uphill battle anytime they show up with it in this rule set. They really do. But that's likely to be the next army. So we will see. Got a figure I think that would look spot on for Dracula. So we will see. I read a book on him. It was a not horror related at all. It's kind of a, imagine like the Rome miniseries, obviously not as sexual and graphic, but in that there's things that you know about his life, but there's conversations between, his wife or his right-hand men that there's no record of, that the author just created out of nowhere. And it's kind of like that. And I thought it should have been better than it was. Yeah, I listened to that about a year ago because I knew that army was coming up, and may have to listen to it again. But we got some cool stuff for him, so that's likely to be who's up next. And it's a relatively small amount of figures. A lot of skirmishers, a lot of skirmishing cavalry, a lot of skirmishing foot. No solid foot actually, to speak of. And yeah, oh my God, it's after 10? All right, we need to finish this guy up and call it a night. Whew. Man, I guess you guys did a good job of distracting me. I appreciate it. Well, that's the thing is, the thing is even though I may not be playing, I didn't do a face-to-face DBA, well, because I wanted to get these guys done, not some fear or anything, for a month. just to get these guys done. I didn't really even miss it because, you know, I got to talk hobby. You know, which when I game, I don't really get to talk hobby. I'm the only painter there. Unless Joe's over. Joe paints. Yeah. Joe's not over every time, but he comes up pretty frequently. And Scott used to paint. I think he's... if you guys watched the video yesterday, that was shot yesterday, his troops were the medieval German ones. So he's got a couple armies. He's got, I think, some Spartans and some medieval Germans. And what else does he have? Does he have New Kingdom? I think he was working on New Kingdom Egyptian and didn't get anywhere with him. But he's a painter. His stuff looks pretty good. So, how about Templar army versus my Pope army? So the Pope army, there's an enemy for the Pope that I'm building, and it's going to be the Sicilians. It's going to be Frederick II, and Khurasan makes an actual figure for him specifically. You could use somebody else, but they make an actual figure for him and his son Manfred. So I'll be getting those. They come in a pack with those two, and they also come up with a cleric. So the cleric is going to be the main figure in the nightstand of the Papal army. But right now I didn't build the nightstand, but I'm going to take 2 other knights with that cleric to make the knight command stand for the Papal army. And when I use that, I can just use the Pope himself as the camp, or use him as a baggage element when we do collision course. But the Sicilian list, the B list in particular, Book 4, 5B, is the Sicilians, and that's Frederick II, and also morph that into a medieval German army B as well. So that's coming up. I just don't want to roll into them next because I think I've got some cool stuff for Dracula to do, but that's definitely an army. It's on the short list. The Dracula army. Got some Byzantines I'm thinking of doing. None of us have any Byzantines. And you know, my Ostrogoths are kind of bored, you know, taking over all of Italy, and nobody's standing up for them, against them, you know. So that's a good tie-in. I've got figures for Byzantines to do. That kind of stuff. That's kind of the top 3 contenders at this point. But that's why, if you watch the games that we did last night, we specifically skipped a couple of opponents. We skipped the Eastern Franks because Joe has Eastern Franks. We're going to make sure that he gets to play them. Makes sense. I skipped the Book 413B German list because that's Scott's army. So Scott should get to play them against him. And we also skipped the Sicilians because we can get that battle in when the Sicilians are done. But anyhow, yeah, that's what's coming up. Lots of stuff to come up. And if I snap my fingers and those 3 armies were completely done, I've got 17 or 18 other armies that I already have all the figures for that would be a lot of fun to do. So lots more painting coming, lots more battles coming. It just takes some time. So is there even a Knights Templar army in DBA? There isn't. The closest would be Templars would be who are those guys? Teutonic Knights. Teutonic Knights would be close, and also in the Crusades army, like you could justify like one of the stands of knights be Templars as well. You know, you could do different military orders, and they're Hospitallers and the Templars and whatever the third one is, which I forget. Templars, Hospitallers, and I forget. But yeah. So anyhow, okay. Well, we're gonna wrap this up. It's 10:10, and maybe we'll be back on tomorrow. Thanks for coming by here, and much appreciated. And we will catch you guys soon. More painting, more gaming, and yeah, good times. Thanks for coming by, folks. Bye-bye.